Hey guys, sorry if I look kind of smudgy. Sunday naps are the best kinds of naps. I wanted to come out and show you now that it's kind of cooled down a little bit. We have trees. I don't know if I can show it. Trees here in the roundabout are all making it. We have aspen, hackberry. See if I can show you. The aspen that didn't look like they were going to make it are looking fine. We have hackberry, apples, Russian sage, mayflower, more aspen. This one is apricot, aspen. There's the hackberry. And then I have nettles and wormwood. My little trees here are coming up from the roots. I don't know why they're struggling so much. I almost overwatered them last year. Canadian Canadian chokecherry. And then this is our fire pit. We haven't used it up yet because we are trying. Here's some volunteer horseradish. I'm letting the grass grow up around here before we use it. I want to have a buffer between there and the straw. So I'm kind of mostly just waiting for the straw to take over the grass to take over the straw in this area so that it's safer to have a fire in it. The reason for these two trees is that I want to be able to hang a hammock out here someday. We'll see how long it takes for that to actually happen. Let's see. Originally, the reason that I have straw in these areas on the road, if you can see that, is because there's a nasty little weed that's like the only thing that was growing here. This is not it. I took and put straw all the way along our road because we had a really nasty weed that none of the animals would eat. And in my classes in college, we learned that vegetation is what's the word? Selective about where it wants to grow. So the primary plants are the ones that can just handle really dry conditions and nasty, no water, rocky, gravelly. So what I did, instead of spraying those nasty weeds, what I did is I changed the habitat by putting straw down. It held some water in the soil, so that now instead what's coming up are some things that the animals will eat, like alfalfa. We even have alfalfa sprouting in the middle of the road now. And bindweed, I'll take bindweed over that other weed because the animals will eat it. You can see here's our aspen, our riverbank grape. More aspen. You can see where the deer ate it. I don't know how well you can see this because I've got it turned the wrong way for me. Wormwood, more aspen, more riverbank grape, and now I've got some little wild plum trees that I have in here too. Anyway, the sun is going to be, let's see, the sun is just a little bright, a little intense right now. So this is, I've got all this wood at the side of the road that I'm using as habitat. I don't know how well you can see it. I'm using it as habitat for little critters. And also because I just think it's pretty. I love deadwood. I have a last time I was watering the pasture, I put a hose in to fill up my tank, and I forgot to take the hose out. So now my 250-gallon tank is empty. It siphoned it straight back out. Oh, there was one thing kind of exciting I wanted to show you guys. We'll see if Jumper will not mob me when I come in. The boys are getting huge. They were born the second week in April. And so it is the 8th. So they're like, what, 7 weeks old? So not quite 2 months, and look how big they are. Hey, boys. I don't know if they can see you or not. So those are the boys. Aren't they cute? They're so rough on the goats, so we took the goats out from among them. Anyway, the raspberries are doing well. The Siberian pea shrubs are doing well. Everything's doing really well. Everything got really well watered this week. Let's see. I might have to water them. This is a spot I'm not sure the water actually got to last week. And since I have to refill that tank anyway, the one where I left the hose in, I'm probably going to water this at the same time. So we have a black locust that finally came back. I have a hedge cotton Easter, is that little dark green one. This is elderberry. Let's see, I have some white oak back here. You can't really see it from here because they're quite small, but they have really handled the dirt really well. I'm really surprised I didn't lose any, but the white oak has been really successful. If I get shocked by the fence here, just laugh. I always get too close because I'm not paying attention. Let's see. Some more Siberian pea shrub. I planted some Russian olive out here. That's a good plant for our area, and so is cottonwood. And that's pretty much it. See how pretty my roses turned out? It's a rugosa type of a rose. It's not the pink and white kind, but that kind of open pattern instead of the closed bud. Let's see, I have some plums that I planted. The Saskatoons have put on new growth, which is exciting. This spot here, I had some trouble getting water to. I sat and ran water here for a really, really long time, and it couldn't seem to make its way through the mulch. So that has been a little bit of a problem with the mulch settling in too well, so well that I can't get water to flow through it. So I'm going to have to work on that. More Saskatoon. I came out and took down all these little cattail type grass weeds because the sheep, nobody likes to eat it because those little burrs get stuck in their throat. So I did bring my scythe out and cut down patches of that kind of nasty grass that has the foxtails on it. The most exciting thing out here, besides that there's lots of fruit on the Saskatoons, of course, is, and they look good, don't they? I even have some of my dogwood that I planted last year that were volunteers from my neighbor that looked like they were dying have actually started to leaf out, which is nice because they would be a good privacy / windbreak. That light green plant there is kind of short. That is a butternut, which means with all this watering, it came back. I planted 5 up here originally and have had a really hard time getting them started. If I was to do it over again, I would put one of those hard rose cages around them. You know, the hard plastic ones you fill with water. Not walls of water, but the rigid ones. I would put that on them in the winter because as young trees, I think they're just too sensitive. We have mature black walnuts and those kind of nut trees around here, but at least where we are, I think it's just too cold during the winter for them to take off. Our black walnut in the back is also doing well, but every winter they have winter killed and had to come back from the roots, and I think that's just so hard on them. So that's what it looks like. Isn't it pretty? We're gonna let the sheep just take it down to the ground because in old days sheep were considered black gold. Having sheep on your property would make you have nice pasture. She's definitely less picky about what she eats than the goats are. And so I have her on a rope so that she's taking things down better, and then I have them wandering around so that they're getting fat and they can eat what they want to eat. And they're still nursing. See how fat they are? Aren't they beautiful? So I watered on Wednesday, and nothing is dying right now, which is encouraging. But I do have some spots that I do not believe that the water got to. We left to go into town when it had another 2 hours that it needed to water, and it ran out of gas in that time. And so I don't know how far that water got. And right now I have decided I'm going to water in the backyard when I flood up here, because I have a hose going back there anyway, because I'm a little concerned about some of my perennials, that they're not getting enough water to start with. That's really been my only problem, is that first year while their roots are getting settled. That's the time when you do have to pamper them, and you can't just take for granted that they have enough water, even in the heavy mulch. My problem right now is, in permaculture, they talk about the zones, like the planting zones. Zone 1, you have closest to your house with everything that needs the intensive amount of care. The problem is, if your planting zones are not according to the needs of the plants that you use the most, then you have to kind of disregard that. We just planted squash. I guess I could turn this around, couldn't I? Where is my camera? Where are we? There we go. I just planted squash in the backyard, and it came up really well. And then it got hot after having first come up, and now it's not doing well. And everything that I have planted back there that is in a box is doing well. A deep box. If I have a shallow box or one that has holes in the sides, like a potato, what would have, like a tomato box or something, you know, just a cardboard box with slats in the sides, the water runs out of that. Whereas if I use a really deep box, even if what I put in the bottom 6 inches is straw, like fertilized straw from rabbits or something, so it has manure in it, and then just the top couple inches are the dirt, even that is better than just putting them in the ground in my soil. So I had planted the squash out in, hi Katie, I had planted the squash out just in dirt, and it's too hot. Yeah, not doing so good. So I'm a little discouraged about that, which means that instead of being able to plant my squash in the backyard, I need to find a different place to plant it, which means it's going to be further away from the house, which means I'm going to have to water it. So I need to remember it takes 5 years to build good dirt. 5 years. That's how long it takes for you to get your microorganisms and your mulch and your fertilizer from your animals to really do the work for you. And we're just at the end of year 3. We still have 2 years to go. So I'm going to think positive and look at everything that is growing. We have lots of perennials, lots of big fruit trees that have really good big roots that are actually doing really well. So maybe no matter what I do, it just seems like we're not going to get a garden, which is, I guess it's okay. We have local gardeners and local farms that grow produce, so we'll support them probably this year, and I'll just keep experimenting, and I'll just have to look at it as that it's an experiment. Let's see how it works.